Hey, it's Mike from The Mike Wagner Show. Thanks for tuning in to The Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM. If you're interested in sponsoring my show, you can send me an email to themikewagnershow@gmail.com, or you could also donate to the podcast. Just go to the Donate Listen site, and you can also donate whatever you like. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. For those who are interested, Anchor can give you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. We've got creation tools, allows you to record and edit podcasts so it sounds great, and they'll distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple, Google, many more. And you can make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership. So download the Anchor app for free or go to Anchor FM to get started.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show brings you famous celebrities and amazing people from all over the world. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. So sit back and relax and enjoy the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for professional help without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, Radio Public, also on iTunes, Apple and Google Play. You can take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Also, subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. We're here with a wonderful woman from the Chicago area. She's an energy healer, life coach, and the author of My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, a guide to a shorter path. She's also host of the podcast Guided Spirit Conversations, gives account of her transformational journey, and gives most powerful tips, tools, techniques that she's learned along the way. And of course, a lot of influences and everything else, and how she discovered many things, and you're just not going to believe what she has to offer as well. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, live from the great city of Chicago, in the Windy City, and of course, home of the Cubs, Bears, and delicious pizza with a few crystals, Marla Goldberg. Marla, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, Mike. How are you? Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. I'm doing great. So you're a Chicago area energy healer, life coach, and author of My Effing Long Journey. And yes, that's how it is labeled in the book, To Loving Myself, a guide to shorter path, and also host of a podcast called Guided Spirit Conversations. And you've been there for quite some time. You give accounts of your transformational journey and give the most powerful tips, tools, techniques that you learned all along the way. And before we get into all that, tell us how you got started.
Well, in the energy healing, I'll start from the beginning because that is the beginning of this journey. I was in a horrible marriage. I was in a bad place, very depressed, and I had nowhere to turn. I had nowhere to go. And I went to a women's conference because there was a woman speaking about how to heal yourself. And I kept hearing this message saying, well, nothing else has worked. You might as well go. And I actually just picked up and went by myself and met her before her talk, but when she started her lecture, everything she said resonated. And I ended up joining her mystery school. And during the 3 years of the school, I learned 14 healing modalities, healing techniques, and I did a lot of my own clearing, cleansing, and healing. Because I like to paraphrase saying her belief system and my belief system is you have to, clean your own closets before you can help anybody clean theirs. Mm-hmm. And so I had to work through, my blocks, my hurts, my self-esteem issues, and I came out a very different person than what I walked into. So much so that I actually filed for divorce and went through my divorce. And so that was my start in energy work. And I actually thought that I was just going to be doing this for myself and friends. It was very hard for me to say I was an energy healer. It was like, I'm an energy healer. I just couldn't get the words out of my mouth. And what was interesting is that once I started down this path and my whole life changed the way I knew it, that it was very bizarre. Anyway, one day I divorced my husband. I'm with my new husband, and I'm traveling with him. And I hear this big booming voice that tells me I have to start a practice because I need to start helping people. And I was in a sound sleep, so I thought it was him yelling at me. And I'm like, what are you yelling at me for? Because I don't know what you're talking about. So I told him what happened. And we discussed it. He goes, well, maybe you need to start a practice. And I said, okay. And I started part-time, and then eventually the practice grew and grew, and I kept taking more and more classes and learning more and more modalities. And before I knew it, I'm full-time into my practice, and now I'm, being urged by spirit to start a podcast. I kept getting this nudge, or a poke. I was like, come on, you need to start a podcast. You need to start a podcast. So I started my podcast. And which I love doing, and like you, it's great meeting these amazing people and learning their stories and everything. Yeah, it's wonderful. And then I started working with someone and was prompted to write a book, and I had no idea what I was going to write about. None whatsoever. And we purchased a second home down in North Carolina. And so I went there for a month. And for the first 3 weeks, I just wrote. It was like automatic writing. And I don't know if you know what automatic writing is, but you get quiet and you just write down whatever comes to you. You don't think, you don't judge, you just write. And after 3 weeks of writing and on many, many notebooks, I started reading back what I was writing. And it was my life story.
Wow.
And through meditation, it was like, you need to help people. So, it was like put these, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but put these techniques that helped you into the book so you can help other people. And then, I did that revision. And then I got another revision. I got another nudge that said, why don't you include this in your story? So prior to learning these tools and techniques, or I call them my TTTs, tips, tools, and techniques, I incorporate them into my story, saying if I would have known or had these tools, this is what I would have used for this circumstance and that circumstance. And then, obviously, when I learned the tips and the techniques, I would say this is what I actually used, and I have used or continue to use every single one of the tips, the TTTs that I have in the book, and I find them to be powerful and transformational. And my feeling is if they help me, they can help somebody else. And if I can shore up somebody else's journey and make it shorter to a point where they, learn to forgive and accept themselves and love themselves, then I've done my job.
It sounds amazing as well, too. And you're trained in 14 different healing techniques. Maybe you can just cover some of those as well. And if you want to cover all 14, that's fine by me. So tell us about some of the different healing techniques.
Well, actually, I'm trained in about 24 healing techniques. 24?
Wow, it's even better. Oh, my gosh. And the next time I talk to you, it's going to double and triple. Next thing you know, you'll lose count after a while.
I'll be the best trained healer around.
There you go.
But what I use in my practice, I will tell you about my practice because I've sort of whittled it down to my 5 favorites. And so one of them is called spiritual response therapy, or otherwise known as SRT. And SRT is a clearing healing modality where I remove blocks, imprints, programs from your Akashic records, which are your soul records. And so for those who don't know what the Akashic records are, from the moment of your existence to right this very second, you have a personal database and everything is recorded. It is everything that you said, thought, and done, positive and negative, or perceived negative, and what people have done to you and how you've reacted to it. And it's all in this giant spiritual database. And what happens is, so we all have been reincarnated, this is not a religious thing, so I just want to sort of preface that this has nothing to do with religion, but we really are all reincarnated over and over and over again, and it's how we grow and it's how we learn for the next lifetime. And sometimes the things we experience in a past life, some traumas come forward, or traumas you might have in this current life, which a lot of us have had something, whether it's a parental, units, yelling at you or correcting you, or a teacher or a spiritual guide, leader, or just friends, that you have an argument with, or a spouse, a partner. And they make these imprints and they make these programs. And so, for example, if somebody was adopted, there's a good chance that they have an abandonment program from, energetically, they realize that they were given up. And so, it's clearing that program of abandonment, which helps them then be able to move on with developing better relationships, healthier relationships. Could be fear programs from something that might have happened, again, past life, current life, but they cause issues in your present life that you're living it today. And so the SRT, I clear it to give people more trajectory, more flow. I'll share with you, there's a business I cleared because they were really on the contemplating closing down their business. And I got a call and I started working with them. Well, last year they had record sales.
Nice.
And it added more people. So this is just some things, that SRT can do to help the trajectory of somebody's life. Another modality is Chinese face reading. And no, you don't have to be Chinese to be read.
Hey, order me some chop suey. And we did have stir fire last night too, so I guess I do qualify.
Well, there you go. What it is, it's part of Chinese medicine, and this technique is over 2,000 years old, because in China, the doctors were not allowed to touch the women. And so they learned how to, this is just basic Chinese medicine, but to diagnose things by looking at the color of their whites of their eyes, their tongue, their skin, this and that. But what they also learned was the facial features, how large, how small, where they're placed, is a roadmap of their personality and characteristics. And it can also show recurring health issues, where there's depletion, etc. And the second part of Chinese face reading is you look at their birth date and their patterns that are attached to the birth date. So what I like to say is facial features, birth date patterns, each are one piece. Put together, you've got a big picture of the person.
That is something. And of course, it used to be a long time ago that when you did the palm rings as well, too, you had these different grooves and told you what you can become, what's going to happen, and everything else. How would you know what's going to happen with a certain person? By maybe the way their nose is shaped, or the nostrils, or maybe ear shape, or the chin, or say forehead or something. It's how would they know about this, and what could they tell? That's just interesting.
Well, so let's go to the ears. So on your ears, it shows what happens from the time your mother was pregnant, how she carried you, if there was stress, or if there was some sort of upset, to how you process things as an infant. So you as a male, your left ear would be from infancy to age 7, and the right ear would be age 8 to 13. And so you would be able to see things like bumps, stress points, notches, things like that, which would tell you when you might have had trouble processing things and what they might have been. If you're talking about the forehead, we could talk about the hairline, and the hairline talks about, I can tell you a lot about, it's called mother's influence, but it really isn't, but it just talks about how you process things in your teens. And your forehead goes to, your upper forehead is your early 20s, and your lower forehead talks about your late 20s. And those lines across the center of your forehead, they tell you how much you processed in your 20s and what you didn't process. not the specific situations, but it'll say how much you processed through and how much still needs some work that you might have repressed or tried to ignore or just didn't want to work on. And so, it goes down your face that way. In your eyes, those lines underneath your eyes, again, talks about what happened in your 30s. Sometimes people get a horizontal mark across the bridge of their nose, the top of the bridge of their nose. And that talks about a change that happened in their 40s. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's just, you sort of like break it down feature to feature, but also, from top to bottom, while looking at these processes. What's going on and what you might be meant for. So some people might be more of a caretaker kind of individual. That's one pattern. Another pattern is somebody who's very flirty and flitty and who really is trusting of their heart. There's another pattern where they're doers. They have very logical and linear minds. There's another pattern where someone's very mysterious and somewhat secretive. And only shows you just a little bit of themselves. So, there's just there's so much information to what can be told about a person's facial features and then the birth date patterns that go along with it. And
that was amazing too. And what about like the teeth and tongue? Do you get into that, or is it just a face itself?
No, just the face. But we do get into smiles and lips. Thick lips, thin lips. If one's thicker than the other, like the top is thicker than the bottom or the bottom thicker than the top, they all have meanings. And it's just a fascinating process.
Yes. Go ahead. You're on a roll. You're doing great.
Thank you. So I also do space clearing, and I can do that remotely as well as, in person, where I can clear homes or businesses, their physical space, because here's what happens. You're stressed, right? And you reach for the front door of your home every day or the garage door as you're leaving. And you might have deadlines and you may not have met the deadlines or you're worried about something. Well, what happens is energetic debris literally falls off of you, the person, everybody in the household, again, in chairs. And so what happens when I do space clearing is I find what the chi flow is in the home or in the business, and I find out where the main primary disturbance is. I clear it. I go back. I clear magnetic disturbances, geopathic stresses that from the ground that might be affecting the situation, and I clear it. And I clear everybody in the home, including pets. Or if it's a business, it would be the CEO, CFO, COO, the top of the organization gets cleared with that. So that's really fascinating. I'll tell you it's not a totally quick story, but I'll tell you a little story. I got called because of the client. Her son was an All-American athlete, and he was having trouble sleeping. And she asked me to work on him with the SRT, and I did. And I heard, I got the message that there was a Ouija board played with. And so I went to her, I said, did he ever play with a Ouija board? And she goes, I don't think so. And we went to dinner with her husband, and she asked her husband, did so-and-so my son ever play with a Ouija board? He goes, yeah, don't you remember his friend bought a Ouija board over when he was about 7 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, and so what it did was open up this major portal, which I didn't realize until she called and asked me to clear the house. And the primary disturbance was in this child's bedroom. Well, he wasn't a child anymore, as a teenager, but in his bedroom. And what's interesting is that for an All-American athlete, there were no trophies, there were no books, there was nothing in the bedroom but the bed, a nightstand, an empty bookcase, and a dresser.
Oh, my goodness.
And you would think that an All-American athlete would have the awards and the trophies and, a teenager would have lots of other things in the room, and there was nothing. And so then I went and I cleared the house and went back into the bedroom and found that there was a block, and it was probably where they played the game. There was only flow so far, like up to the edge of the bed, and from the bed to the window, it was totally blocked The energy was totally blocked. And while I was doing it, I had gotten the message that he, might want to change bedrooms. And I told him that, and she had asked, and he said no. And 2 weeks later, he said yes. And all of a sudden, he moves into a bedroom, and his trophies come out, his books comes out, he's sleeping, he's studying in his room. I mean, it's a typical teenager's bedroom.
That is amazing, too. And getting back to the SRT, a question that popped up as well, too. Now, is there a connection to the DNA or the brain neurons in the nervous system or in the brain functions that is tied to the SRT as well?
No, not at all.
Okay.
This is all energetic, yeah.
Okay, because I was just checking about that when you talked about that. We'll get back to some of your healing techniques as well, too. We'll go on to the fourth, but first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without break your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Apple, Google Play. Also on the YouTube channel, The Mike Wagner Show, and take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. And make sure you subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. We're here with Marla Goldberg, the Chicago area energy healer, life coach, and author of My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path, and also host of a podcast called Guided Spirit Conversations. And she gives account of her transformational journey and gives most of the powerful tips, tools, techniques she learned along the way, and also gave us some of the 14 techniques as well too. And we're on to number 4 as well. And this has been very, very interesting, about SRTs and Chinese facial recognition, and also a few others. And let's go on to the next one as well. I mean, you're on such a roll, I have to say that.
I'm sorry. Is it not too bad at all?
This is great. This is great. Keep going here.
Okay. Well, I will. So let's see. I do intuitive life coaching. And that is, I don't call myself a psychic, but what I like to do is talk to somebody about what's going on into their life and help them, guide them with intuitive guidance and what steps they can do to change their life in terms of, regarding jobs, relationships, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So it's a very simple, intuitive life coaching, and which is also what I call guiding your spirit conversation, because I guide the spirit. I guide the conversation through spirit. They guide me into what I share with people. So if you wanted to talk to me about something that's going on, I would then, tell you what I was seeing or hearing, because I'm clairvoyant and clairaudient, which are, I see things and I hear.
Mm-hmm. And what about like in phone conversations? Do you also detect that as well too?
Absolutely. You can do that. There's no time or space in spirit. So you can, have any kind of session over the phone or Skype or Zoom, and it's just as powerful. And sometimes it can be more powerful because you're not being distracted by facial expressions or something else that might be going on if somebody was sitting before you. So if somebody was coming in and they're a skeptic, and you're telling them something and they start rolling their eyes in front of you, the human ego thing is like, what's the matter? My intuition isn't good enough. And when you're over the phone, you can't see that. So you just, you have the flow going.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're going
to pop you.
It sounds like you're going by intuition as well too, and it's amazing. You also offer other services as well too, and to clients, expertise, and everything else. We've gone over a few of those, and also describe more of your services as well too. And what else do you have to offer?
Oh wow! Clearing wise, I do. There are hands-on, which of course you can do distantly. I have verbal healing techniques. One of my favorite is called Awareness Response Technique, ART, And that's a very, very cool process where, we would get into a meditative state, and I would ask you to scan your body. And let's say, hypothetically, you saw or you felt like a pain in your arm or in your shoulder. Then we would talk about what you were feeling. We would give it texture, color, smell, taste, everything. And then this whole process will lead you into finding out where the cause of it is from. So sometimes it could be a psychic stab wound, or it could be something else. It's just amazing. It could be afraid of moving forward in some capacity. And we find it out and we work through it. I'm catching my breath. I'm telling you about all these techniques. I work with angels and, and how they work and how they help. I've been trained in theta healing, the basic course there. I've been trained in other psychic, I've worked with other psychics in training and their clearing techniques. So there's a whole litany of unnamed techniques that I work with. We clear off cords because we get corded. So when you have children, for example, you and your children are naturally corded. You're their parent. But at a certain point, when they become adults, they don't have the need to be corded to the parent the way they did as a child. You could think of the cording as an umbilical cord. But at a certain point, when they're on their own, they don't need to be courted in the same way. When people start going out with each other and dating, they get courted with each other. And that's why sometimes disengaging is so difficult. Because they're courted.
It sounds quite common, too. It's like, the parent-child bond is so strong, it's almost like you don't want to lose each other. And that's really understood as well, too. And to me, it's common, myself with 4 children, 2 grown, and everything else. So basically, it's a good advice for parents as well, too. So, it does come to a point, you have to say.
Well, yeah. And then, it's the divine right of the individual to live their own life without being attached at the hip, so to speak, even though the cords they're really either in the back or the front, mostly the back. But, they have the divine right to live their own life without that parental influence. Though, if you have a good relationship, and, parents stop trying to dictate and control their child, but they allow their child to do what they need to do to learn their lessons, to grow as individuals. And so, there's a difference between somebody who's courted, who can't, how you hear the term helicopter parent?
Correct, yes, I've heard that.
So that's
very common, yes.
Who's heavily courted to their child. You look at, if they're still under your roof or they're in college and you're paying their bills and everything else, then of course you need to be courted with them. But for example, if they're married and have their own children, this is the time where it's good to cut the cord and allow them to be, because the relationship isn't going to change. It could get stronger because they no longer feel the pressure of someone trying to control their existence. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I can imagine right now. Chopper one, make sure Bobby doesn't burn the soap. Chopper two. Make sure so-and-so gets their yard done. Chopper 1, chopper 2, something like that.
That's so funny, yes.
I can see where you're coming from as well, too. And, of course, it's all in the book as well, too. My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path. We'll talk about the book in just a minute. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960 or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Apple, and Google Play. Also, you can watch the Mike Wagner Show interview on the YouTube channel, become a subscriber, and take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. We're here with Marla Goldberg, Chicago area energy healer, life coach, and author of My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, a guide to a shorter path. Also, host of the podcast Guide Spirit Conversations. And you had this book out, just put out recently. And tell us about the book and what influenced you to write the book.
So the book is partial memoir, partial self-help, and I was urged to write a book, and I thought it might be about my modalities, it's something else. And what ended up happening was I went on a month-long, let's say, sabbatical to go writing trip. So I was by myself for a month, and I was doing what they call automatic writing. I would get quiet and I would just start writing, and I would write and I'd write and I'd write. And when you do automatic writing, you don't judge what's coming out, you don't fix it, you just write. And after about 3 weeks of writing, I started reading back what I was writing, and it was my life story. And, of course, the names are changed to protect the non-innocent. I joke about.
Right. That's a given, unless you're in social media or you're a star on Instagram. That's a given.
And then, I was, doing my meditation, and then I had gotten the message to add the actual techniques that helped me change my life around. And I went from somebody who really didn't, and I didn't even realize it because I thought I really loved myself, but I didn't. And I knew that by the choices I would make and the choices that didn't serve me well at all. And so I got the message to add them and make this a self-help book, not just a book about my life. And it resonated because one of my purposes in life is to help raise consciousness, is to help people. I'd like to get them to have a really great flow in their life, a great trajectory. And so I added a number of techniques in the back of the book that I used a lot at one point, and now I use, but not as often. And then I had gotten guidance to start adding it in my story. So in my story, you might read about my childhood, and then I would put in a little phrase that would say, if I had the techniques then that I have now, this is what I would use. And I would put in the technique by number. And then you go in the back of the book and you match the number to the number that's attached to the technique. And then when I actually, to the point in my life where I actually started learning these techniques and using them on a regular basis, then I say, and I used technique 17514, whatever it might be, and to let people know what I actually did to, release anger, stress, frustration. I learned to forgive other people, and the hardest thing to do is to forgive yourself. And I learned how to forgive me, and not beat myself up, because what I've learned and what I know from my practice is we as human beings have a tendency to treat ourselves worse than anybody, than we would treat anybody, even somebody we didn't like. And because you constantly have that looping of telling yourself that you're not good, you're not worthy, you're not this. And so it's great to be able to learn to forgive yourself for all of these thoughts, these negative thoughts you might have about yourself, or beating yourself up because you didn't get your A or your A+, or you didn't get the job, or you didn't get the promotion, and you forgive. And then I moved into self-acceptance, as I like to say, warts, wrinkles, and all, because there's a duality to each person, and there's positive and negative, but they all can work in a very good way with each other. And then self-love. And, then you learn to make decisions that really honor who you are as a person. You put up boundaries. So you stop becoming a pleaser for the sake of being a pleaser because you want to be liked. And this is just an example, but you are able to then learn to love yourself with the good and the bad. So, for example, someone may look at being aggressive as a negative trait, but really, is it negative? Sometimes one needs to be aggressive to get done what needs to be done. Or if they're dealing with someone who might not have the highest ethics and moral, sometimes you need to be aggressive to get someone to do what they're contracted to do. Mm-hmm. So it really isn't as negative as it's portrayed to be, when we're younger. I mean, people used to use the word aggressive like you were a pit bull and it was a horrible, terrible thing. Well, pit bulls are actually very sweet animals, and they just do what they need to do to protect themselves.
Right. And of course, pit bulls have gotten a really bad name because of what's been happening in the media, but you're right. It's like, they're very protective animals, and it's also a good point to remind everybody that just because you're aggressive doesn't mean you're very angry, and you're right. You have to remind people that sometimes things happen for a reason, or you do it for a reason.
Exactly, and that brings the duality, to learning to accept the duality, learning to accept that you may have to be aggressive. You may have to be, excuse the expression, a biatch. But you do it because you have to. Now, some people do it because it's just what they think they need to be, but it's not. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I learned to allow my vulnerability to lead my way, opposed to trying to protect myself from people seeing my vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And I will share, putting this book out was a very vulnerable thing for me to do because I really show my underbelly in a way.
And of course, you also give some powerful tips, tools, and techniques, or you call it the 3 T's. And I'm not sure if we've covered some of them, or maybe if we did, maybe just a little bit of a recap of the book before we talk about the podcast as well, too.
So we did not talk about them, but I will share some of my favorites. So one of my favorites is called Clear Delete. And what it does is it allows you to start paying attention to what you're thinking, what you're saying, because like I mentioned a few minutes ago, that we are so hard on ourselves. And the law of attraction states what you focus on is what you get. So if someone keeps talking about how broke they are, I'm broke, I don't have money, I don't have this, I don't have that, and they just live in lack. Well, what they bring to themselves is more lack. So my technique is when you realize that you're thinking something negative or somebody cuts you off and you wish them ill, you stop it. And you stop it by saying the words clear, delete. And you say them 3 times.
Clear, delete.
Clear, delete. So it would be clear, delete, clear, delete, clear, delete. You can say it aloud. You can say it in your head. And I will tell you, when I started doing this, like over a decade ago, there were days that this is a mantra. Like I would think something and I'd go, oh my God, clear, delete, clear, delete, clear, delete. And then I'd go on to the next thought and I'd be, oh my God. And then what was really interesting is now I truly pay attention to what I'm saying or what I'm thinking or what I'm doing for a number of reasons. I don't want this negativity going into the ethers. I don't want them in the energy so that they can boomerang back and come back at me. So I want to stop it in its tracks, and that's what it's about. This technique of clear delete. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And after a period of time, again, you'll be aware of what you're saying and start saying it and go like, oh no, I don't want that out there, and you'll say it earlier. And you'll pay more attention to it. But I've been doing this. I have a band that says clear delete, just as a reminder to say it and to pay attention to your words, your thoughts, your actions, so that you make sure they come back to you. You want the good stuff coming back to you. You don't want this negative stuff coming back.
Right. That's exactly it. Clearly is one of them as well, too. And also maybe another part of the 3 T's as well, too.
Exactly. It is definitely one of the 3 T's. Another one that I'll share is a forgiveness letter. And I love this because it's a letter you never send to anybody. But what you can do is you write, let's say you have a nemesis, somebody you're angry about, somebody you're hurt, who hurt you deeply, or even somebody you've done something to. And you write this letter and you just pour your heart into it in terms of it's unjudged. So you can write anything. You can swear. You can put whatever negative thought in there about somebody. You treated me bad. You did me wrong. I know it sounds like a country song.
Oh, my gosh. It's just like, if we talk music, I'm sure there'd be a lot of them as well, too. I've got a library full of them.
Exactly. But then what you do is there's a part two which you can do. You can just take this and have a burning ritual and just burn it and set an intention that as this letter goes up in smoke, so do all the negative emotions. And you can do it to music. You can do it outside in a bonfire. Well, you can wash it, and wash the ink, go down the drain. You could flush it down the toilet, though I wouldn't do it because you might black up your septic system. Mm-hmm. But the point is, you can do whatever the ritual it is for you can bury it. Mm-hmm. Or you can burn it and bury the ashes. I mean, it just, your imagination can run wild on how you want to rid yourself of this. But part two, if you should want to take it that way, is you can put in all the things that upset you, and then you say, I forgive you. And then you can also get quiet and do this automatic writing, say, and write down the response, like what you feel the person would say in response to this letter, or the response you would want to get from if somebody should receive this letter. And then again, you go, if you want to do part two, you could, you do your ritual again, but you never mail this letter. You never send it to anybody. You don't show it to anybody. This is strictly for you and for the purpose and benefit of releasing and forgiving somebody or something or a situation that is imprinted in your system now. Mm-hmm.
That is amazing as well, too. And, of course, those are just a couple of the powerful tips, tools, and techniques that you learned along the way in the book, My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path. And, just another question before we get to your podcast. I guess I just wanted to ask you this. It's like, how'd you come up with that title? What's the genesis of it? It's pretty interesting.
Well, so the title came up because I was trying to come up with a title, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, this is my effing long journey to loving myself. And then, the tagline is just because it's a guide to a shorter path. But the original title was My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself. And because that's what I was sharing. It was a long, hard, arduous journey to getting to this place. And now I'm just so grateful every day because I wake up every morning pretty happy, and I sing and I pray, and I'm living the life I always desired to live.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing too. And where can they find the book?
So you can find the book at either my website, which is at marlagoldberg.net, or on Amazon, or Ingram Sparks. So ingramspark.com or amazon.com. And you can find the book at any of these places. If you order it from me directly, I will personalize it for you. That's one of the benefits from ordering it from me directly. Mm-hmm. And also on my website, you can see I'm developing products to support the book. So I have the bracelet that says Clear and Delete. I have a screen pillow, which is hysterical to look at, and it's just a fun something to remind you. But there's a release technique where you just, sometimes you just need to scream that you can't, you don't want it to be loud, so you muffle it in a pillow. Well, what's better than having a scream pillow to scream into?
A scream pillow. That is interesting. Oh my gosh! And I'm in it right now. I see you got the book, you got the Clear Delete, you also got the Screen Pillow, Heart and Soul, 52 Weeks of Gratitude Journal. And now, is this one of the books that you also co-author, or was this another book that you had written along the way?
So 52 Weeks of Gratitude and Heart and Soul are compilation books that I have written in. So those are two books that I participated in, and I'm having a third compilation come out very soon, I think around November, called The Kindness Crusader.
Uh-huh. That is
and then
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I'm also developing a journal to support the book as well.
That is amazing, too. And you're also a host of a podcast, so I guess the fun just doesn't stop with the book on your effing long journey. You're a host of a podcast called Guided Spirit Conversations, and tell us about this podcast.
So my podcast is the reason I put it together was twofold. One, there are so many amazing metaphysicians, healers, psychics, and thought leaders in the world, but people don't know about them. They're not the big names that everyone hears about, right? Mm-hmm. But they're just as talented as these people that are well known. And so my purpose is to, one, spotlight them so they can share their techniques, their gifts to the listening audience. And they also share a tip, a tool, a technique that the listening audience can easily incorporate in their life to help enhance it, shift it, tweak it, whatever it is they feel that they need. And so, not only do we talk about, I'll talk to a psychic medium, we'll talk about how they talk to spirits on the other side, and they'll give them an appetizer of something that they can do easily just to learn how to connect with a relative on the other side, or to start building their intuitive abilities. A metaphysician, a healer. I mean, I had a aromatherapist on, many psychic mediums, but we just talk about what they do and how they help people. And because there are many people out there that need the help, and hopefully one of my guests will resonate and they will connect and they will get help. And the second part is for the listening audience. I want to give them, again, not only an introduction to somebody they may not have heard of or met before, but I want to give them things that they can incorporate in their life. The whole goal is to help support the listener and help them with their life journey. And, so you can tell there's a theme with everything I do. And it's all about purpose and helping and shortening up somebody's journey. So hopefully they can live a happier, more prosperous, joyful life than they might be living today.
That's amazing. You mentioned about appetizers and everything else. And the first thing I think is chicken wings. I guess you can tell we're obsessed with food. You could tell that.
Well, we're Midwesterners by heart, right?
That's right. Midwest, especially. I mean, we love food. I mean, there's just no turning back on. What can we say? And, of course, where can we find Guided Spirit Conversations at?
So Guided Spirit Conversations is it's a live show where you can call in, by the way, which I love, every Thursday at noon Eastern time. And we replay it on iHeart, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, to the usual sources to find the podcast.
Okay.
Not too many for me to mention, but it goes out as a post broadcast.
Oh, okay. Now, whereabouts can we listen to it live? You mentioned like noon Eastern, and where can we listen live? So
it's Voice America. And I'll tell you what, so if your listeners would email me at Marla at mghealer.com, so that's M like Marla, G like Goldberg, healer.com, I will be able to put them on my mailing list and have this sent directly to them.
Oh, That'd be great. Voice America. I'm gonna have to remember that. So you'll be featured on there. And of course, just a few more minutes here. You're very fantastic. We know you're very busy, but you're always great and everything else. And just love to talk food sometime as well too. Appetizers and whatever else. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Well, my work ethic, I believe I got from my mother, because she was an amazing. She was a go-getter, and she was a doer, and I'm the same way. So that is, I would say she would be the biggest influence in my life. But I would also want to give credit to the woman who helped raise me from the time I was 4, and my caretaker, and she was an amazing influence on me, because she came at things from a different point of view than what I was brought up with, which was a lot of dysfunction, like many people. Mm-hmm. And she instilled in me some of her ethics and morals and integrity, and it just changed me. Made me very different from my sister and brother, who didn't have the good fortune of being in this woman's presence like I was.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing too. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Well, if you're challenged, start a gratitude practice. I start my day every day with gratitude, and I end it with gratitude, because you'll find that when you realize that you're grateful for something, even if it's a sunset, a sunrise, the fact that you have a toothbrush, or that you have toothpaste, or you can take a bath every day, or you have clothes on your back. Many people don't have these luxuries.
That's true.
And we take them for granted. And if you just start saying, I'm grateful for, and start with saying 5 things, and you can repeat the same 5 things, or find something else. Maybe you run into a dog on the street that lifted your spirits. You can be grateful for that interaction. Or somebody held the door open for you, or there was a random act of kindness. Be grateful for it. Mm-hmm. And you can do it by starting a gratitude journal, writing 5 things every day. You can just say it out loud every morning, 5 things. I do every morning and every evening. I state gratitude.
Mm-hmm. And
instead of counting sheep, I count gratitude.
Counting sheep, I haven't done that in years. But in terms of gratitude, it's I just want to take great gratitude and saying a big thank you for being on the program. You definitely helped me. You definitely help our listeners. And you've just been a great inspiration. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do they contact you? And where can they purchase your book? And how they tune into your podcast?
Thank you. So my website is marlagoldberg.net. You can reach me at Marla at mghealer.com. I'm on Facebook at marla.goldberg9 or /marla.goldberg9. My Instagram is marla.goldberg, and my Twitter is at Marla Goldberg. So we can't forget my name. Guided Spirit Conversations is on Voice America, and I would be more than happy if you want to send me your email address to put you on my mailing list so you don't miss a show. We have some of the most amazing people scheduled for the rest of the year. And I wouldn't want you to miss that.
That would be great. I'll be more than glad to do that. And Marla, just want to say a big thank you for your time. You have been fantastic. Looking forward to having you on again soon. And please do me a favor, and you can channel this out. Looking forward to having you on again soon. And please do me one more favor, okay? Keep us up to date.
Yes, I will do, Mike. I've just enjoyed our time together so much.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. Also, become a sponsor of the program and or donate today at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of The Mike Wagner Show.